Hey everybody, in this video we're going to go over if-else statements and comparison operators. So I've got an example for us to kind of take a look at here. If I have a rectangle and I want to get the area of that rectangle, I can multiply the width by the height and we'll get the area. So this program calculates the area, and as you can see, I've just assigned these two variables, these values, and we multiply them together into this, it goes into this area variable, and then we output that area variable to the screen. So it's pretty straightforward, and if you want, you could have the user input that themselves, but I just hard-coded this in for simplicity's sake. Now, in order to show off how this stuff works, let's say I want to do something specific depending on the value of that area. So in order to do that, we'll need to use if-else statements and comparison operators. So let's write out our if-else statement, and then we'll fill in the comparison stuff. So first we'll just say if, parentheses, and I'll leave that blank for right now. Then we will add a curly brace, and we'll enter. You don't need to press enter there, but I like having it that way. It's just a style choice. The white space doesn't matter. Then after that, we'll go down one more line and we'll say else, and we'll put another bracket down here. Okay, so that's what an if-else statement kind of looks like. And also, I should not forget to explain the else if. So these are really the three components of an if-else statement. You've got if, else if, and else. So if checks a certain condition, and if that condition is true, then the code in this little section here, or this block, gets executed. On the other hand, if that's not true, then we check the else if. And if that's true, then the code inside of here gets executed. And if that fails, then we just go down to else and we do whatever's in here regardless of any condition. So it's pretty straightforward. However, this can get confusing if you've got lots of ifs inside of ifs. So just for an example, you can do stuff like this, where you have if-else inside of an if-else. So I'm not gonna really bother with that today, but it is possible, and you'll probably end up doing that a lot. So be careful. Now, another thing to mention real quick is that if it does go in here in the first if, then it will not check the else if. And it won't check the else. So basically, your control flow is what it's called. It's going to start up here, and then it'll go into one of these spots, but none of the others, basically. But if you want it to go, if you want to check two conditions, you could have like two if statements. So it would go into one of these, and then it would go either into this one or not at all. You don't need to put an else. So you don't need to put this here, but just as an example, if it goes into if here, then we could also check if it goes into if or else there. So really, this is like the whole statement, and this is like the whole statement here. But again, you don't need an else. The only thing you need is an if. So you don't need else if, you don't need else, you just need an if, and that's the essential part. But I do want to show off all of them. So now what we do here in this if statement is we're going to check a condition. So for example, I've got some notes here for you to look at if you want. I guess we'll go over this down here, and then we'll go back up there. So these are a list of possible conditions that we could check. We've got the equals comparison operator. We want to check if these two values are equal to each other. We use two equal signs because one equal sign is the way to assign a value to a variable. That's the assignment operator. We went over that before. So in order to compare these two, this is the comparison operator, we use two equal signs. In some languages, you'll find three equal signs for something more specific, but I don't think that's in C++. So the next one is not equal. So the exclamation point is basically is the not symbol. It's a symbol for not, or opposite. Strangely enough, though, we only use one equal sign for that, but it's the same number of keystrokes either way. So we got two equal signs for equals and exclamation point and then equal sign for not equal. So you'll get used to it really fast. Next, we've got greater than and less than. These are the same symbols you'd use in math class. And we've got greater than or equal to and less than or equal to. Same thing. It just checks both of these at the same time. It checks greater than or equal to. For example, if x is 100 and y is 90, then this will be true. And if x is 100 and y is 100, then it's still true. So you'll run into different situations where you'll need to figure out which one of these you want to actually use, and you'll want to pick the best one. So just for an example, we'll say if area equals 200, which it is. It's going to equal that right now. We can say great, that's my favorite number. Again, this isn't really very practical, but you get the point. Else if area is less than 200, then we'll say cout, that's a small rectangle. And we'll do another one here, cout, whatever. Actually, you know what? We can sort of infer some logic from this. So we know that if it is 200, it'll go in there, and if it's less than 200, it'll go there. So that means the only other option is that it has to be greater than 200. So we can do something specific to greater. So we can say, wow, that's a big rectangle. So sometimes you might have to infer certain things and perform different things based on that, based on your inferences. Okay, so that's just an example. And if we run it, we should see that this, yeah, area is 200, that's my favorite number. And then I'll change it to be bigger than that. So 10 times 30 is 300. Wow, that's a big rectangle. And I'll make this a smaller one. And area is 100, that's a small rectangle. Cool. So it went into each and every, well, it went into each of these. So I'll delete that for right now because we don't need that anymore. One more thing I need to show you is the AND operator and the OR operator. So let's just remove that stuff and let's just check for a very specific condition. Because we can combine conditions together. We can say something like if area is greater than 50 and area is less than 100. So this is the AND symbol, the double ampersand. This will check to see if the area is above 50 and less than 100. So only when both of these are true do we go in here. And I'll just say great, that's a nice rectangle. Okay, so we'll say like, what is it? Yeah, 6 times 10, that'll give us an area of 60. It'll go in there. Yeah, area 60. And if I change it to 80, it'll also go in there. Yeah. So only when both of those conditions are met does it go in there. Now, there's a concept called short-circuiting, which is, let's say it matches this criteria, but not this criteria. And we can have like as many of these as we want. So we could do like, and, area is not equal to like 87. So, or well, yeah, I could say like 80, for example. And even though our area is 80, it won't go in there. So the area is 80, it didn't go in there. So we have 3 conditions now. But let's say that in order to demonstrate the short circuit thing, I'm going to need another else if. So let's put area is not equal to 80 at the front. So now what's going to happen is it'll check to see if area is 80, and then here, oh, you know what? Well, it doesn't really matter. It does not really matter, but here, let's do it this way. So we've got these 2 conditions. what I'm trying to show off is the fact that if this condition is false, it won't bother to evaluate that condition at all, basically. It'll just skip down here. Yeah, I don't even think I need to show that off, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. We'll just, basically, if this is not true, then it doesn't even bother to look at that. So this could be whatever. I think that's easier explained with multiple variables, but like you could substitute width and height in here, and it would be, again, I'm just messing around to try and kind of show you what you can do with this kind of stuff. So it'll first check the width, and if the width is not greater than 50, it won't even look at the height. And that's important when you have variables that you might not always want to check what they are at a certain time. So let's say you want to just check the width and not the height. This would be ideal. Other situation might have it reversed where you're checking the height and then the width. Again, these are just made up numbers, but anyway, I've talked about enough about that. Let's talk about the other operator here, which is the OR operator. So, and this is actually a decent way to explain it, because if the width is greater than 50 or the height is less than 100, then we go into this statement here. So it's pretty self-explanatory. OR is the pipe key, I guess. It's like above the enter key on your keyboard. You need two of them. Same with the ampersand. So one ampersand and one pipe means something totally different. So don't use these when you're trying to use if statements. So remember, always use two of them. But we'll talk about that more later when we talk about binary stuff. So that's really all there is for this section here. So well, we might come back to this a little bit and explain a few other things, but that'll be it for today. So hopefully this was insightful. As always, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and we'll continue on next time. So see ya, and thanks for watching.